Hi, welcome back to that channel. As I stated before the break, we're sitting down with Gerald Thomas, a consultant, a Canadian-born consultant who is now living in Japan. Gerald, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Great. Okay, so you are a lawyer who works with law firms in Japan to translate documents.
Well, translating is one of the things we do, but it's not the main thing, actually. The main thing I do is do consulting with the lawyers, and that can involve translation, definitely, but it also involves a lot of communication work before the translation needs to be done. For example, cross-cultural negotiation, and then preparing documents, and then when they need to be translated into another language, then we get to the translation part. But I don't do that myself. I have a team that works on that for me.
You're a lawyer yourself?
Yes, I'm British Columbia licensed barrister and solicitor,
right.
Working in Japan, but I do not provide legal services directly to clients because I am not licensed in Japan. What I do is I support the Japanese lawyers with their clients, and that's completely legal.
So it's more than translation?
Oh, yes, much more.
So let's talk a little bit about that then. Well, first of all, how long have you been in Japan?
I've been in Japan 20 years.
20 years?
Yes, 20 years. It's hard to believe.
So, can we talk about any of the firms that you represent or work with?
Well, I can't mention the firms by name. You know, they wouldn't like that. But let's say at the top 10 firms, I'm working with at least 5 of them. And I work behind the scenes because, like I say, I'm supporting the lawyers as I say I'm your silent partner. That's one of my little buzz lines that I use with them. But the idea is that I'm supporting them to make them look good when they're doing their international projects. I mean, they're brilliant people, but it's something that to help them show just how good they are. Sometimes they need a little bit of a help, sometimes with the writing, sometimes with presentations, either giving them training or reviewing their materials. So these lawyers just need a little bit of help in that aspect, but I mean, they're incredible individuals. I mean, Japanese lawyers, only 3% of the people that write the exam pass it.
Wow.
So we're dealing with a very sophisticated population, and you know, they're great to work with. I mean, these people, many of them have traveled the world, and they really know what they're doing. But sometimes they feel a little constrained when it comes to doing presentations to a European audience or to an American audience. And what I can do is just give them a bit of that background support so that when they stand there, they feel, okay, I'm ready. And so the feedback, the practice, or preparing the documents, those are the things that really allow them to shine when they get out there. And that's what I provide to them. One-to-one or in small groups, usually one-to-one. Senior lawyer, I'll work with him in his office, in one of his boardrooms, and I don't show my face out with their clients or anything. It's their show, but to help give them that little bit of feedback so they know they're on the right track. That's what I provide.
Fantastic. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, what I'd like to talk about is about the cross-cultural differences and the challenges that you're facing.
Sure.
You're watching thatchannel.com. We will be right back with Gerald Thomas after this break. Okay. Welcome back to that channel. Before the break, we were talking with Gerald Thomas about working within the Japanese community for 20 years, supporting law firms. Now I'd like to bring in on a little bit of a cultural side, and I'd like to talk a little bit about the challenge that you faced over the last 20 years within the Japanese community. Well,
the challenge is, my gosh, if we have another 20 hours, I couldn't tell you about all the challenges. I mean, it's such a different culture, but a fascinating culture. And working with the Japanese attorneys, the big thing I find, of course, is a language issue. The Japanese culture is so old that they have developed so many particular expressions. And working with the Japanese lawyers, we're all talking about international business. We're working, with European populations or with the Americans and the Canadians as well, of course, and South America. But it's something where trying to convey what the Japanese attorneys really want to say to a European attorney, for example, about how to get this deal together. That's a big challenge, because what the Japanese may be thinking about could be exactly what the Europeans are thinking about, but the Japanese don't know how to explain it the same way, because the way they communicate is very indirect. Whereas, for example, if you talk to someone from North America, for example, a Canadian, when we want to say no, we say no. When we want to say yes, we say yes. But the Japanese don't want to say things so directly. They're afraid of insulting the other side. And so when somebody says, can you do X? They'll say, well, that's difficult. Well, that means no. It's true. It means absolutely impossible. But of course, if you're a Canadian like me, and if you don't know that, you're going to say, well, difficult, why? What can we do to make it work? And what the Japanese person is saying, well, it's very difficult, which he's saying is flat out no. And it's because the Japanese have a very strong etiquette, and they really don't want to insult anybody. And they think that by saying no will seem too much an affront to the other side.
Right.
And so that type of issue, trying to say to the attorney, it's okay to say no. Tell him no. Because then he'll say, okay, let's move on. But if you say it's difficult, he'll try to work with it, and it'll take you twice as long to get somewhere.
So let me ask you this. What kind of challenges do you think Japan is facing in the future? Because a lot is changing over there.
Yes.
With China and Korea,
yes,
and
yes,
the other Asian countries. What do you think the challenges are that they're going to face?
Well, I mean, Japan had a big head start over the other Asian economies. And primarily because they had, after the war, a very close association with the Americans. And the Japanese rebuilt their economy in an incredibly short amount of time. Within 20 years, they were an economic power. And that head start gave them huge advantages, and that's why you have Toyotas in America and across Europe and in South America, whereas the Korean cars or the Chinese cars have taken a lot longer and are just starting to get into the market. That is because of the Japanese. They're an incredible industrious population, industrious population, and they're very good at that kind of thing. Now the Chinese and the Koreans are catching up. And how do you distinguish one from the other? The big challenge for Japan is to say, hey, wait, we still have an edge. We still have a sales point. And what I'm doing, working with the lawyers, is helping them represent their clients to say to the Germans, hey, wait, our technology is still the best, and here's why. And saying, we can work it out. Let's put something on paper. Let's get a good contract that gives both of us a win-win scenario. And that type of thing is what really has to be enhanced in the future, because they had a head start. It's slipping, and they need help to get back into the race and stay ahead of the race, because of the strong competition from the Chinese and Koreans.
So let's talk about your personal challenges. I was reading your bio, and I see that you married a Japanese woman.
Yes.
And obviously you've been residing there for 20 years.
Yes. Yeah.
So how was that for you? Forget the lawyer, forget all the work.
Yes.
How was that for you, dealing with that transition, all of a sudden your first few years in Japan with the family and whatnot?
Well, I've been very fortunate because we were based in Kobe. We've always lived in Kobe, which is a city of 2 million people, pretty well in the center of Japan. I mean, I think people may know the earthquake in Kobe 15 years ago. Well, I was there, and it was the worst year of my life. But if you can take that and put that aside, I chose to live in Japan. I saw a business opportunity, but I also saw a great place to raise my family. Japan has an amazingly good infrastructure. Their trains are unbelievably good. And the population, it was difficult language-wise, but I have to tell you, I thought the Japanese people were very welcoming to me. And once they realized that I was going to make an effort to work with them and to learn how to do things in a way that is that really is able to coordinate with what their expectations are. Now, I'm not trying to be Japanese, and I never have tried to be Japanese, but it's something where I have to show a willingness to work with the Japanese in a productive way. And they were always open to that. I mean, my children went to Japanese schools. My children joined the soccer team, and I was invited to coach children's soccer. So for the last 8 years, I've been coaching soccer with Japanese children, elementary school children. And so, the Japanese society has been great. And it was a challenge, yes. But I found that if you smile and you look like you're really going to put in some effort, Japanese society was, I chose to raise my family there, and I don't regret that decision at all.
That's fantastic. Gerald, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And thank you for joining us. Until next time, thank you for watching that channel.